All right, so now you had Candace Owens go on Piers Morgan's show, and there was a wide-ranging interview about a number of topics, including her getting axed from the Daily Wire and accusations of anti-Semitism and Israel-Palestine and whether or not Bridget Macron is a dude or not.
Oh, they talked about it?
They did, and
oh my God.
My understanding is that Piers was just like, you ruined all your credibility on that. Because she made some bold comment like, I put my entire reputation on that she's a man. And everybody's like, okay, she's not a man. Right? Like, what do you want me to tell you? That's not true. So anyway, we got a little piece of it here. This is a portion on Israel and Palestine. Let's watch, and then we'll break it down.
Well, let me read you the exact wording and see whether you think it applies to. Well, let me read you the exact definition of genocide from the Oxford English Dictionary: the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. So by that definition, do you believe that is what's happening to the Palestinian people and it's being perpetrated by Israel?
Well, I would say is that Israel has proven in the past that they can be very specific when they want to get somebody out, whether that's a hostage or any other certain military operation. And what I am seeing happening, forgetting the specific language of a genocide, is something that I'm using my platform to speak out against, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me what the media calls me. I've had every headline. I do not believe that they are being careful in what they are doing. I think it has been it seems to me that the destruction of the hospitals and the schools and of the UN buildings. Would you say, Piers, that you believe that's unintentional?
I do not believe Israel's waging genocide. I think that...
You believe, but I'm asking you, do you believe that the targeting, going room to room in the hospitals
is intentional? Well, no, I'll be clear with you. I can answer the question. I have said repeatedly in the last few weeks and months that I think the proportionality of Israel's response is now unacceptable. And particularly since they decided to go into Rafah, a refugee camp that they set up, to then target Hamas in the middle of a refugee camp where you're bound to kill so many innocent civilians in the process, I think is unacceptable. But I'm just curious, given that you tweeted about genocide and no government ever has a right to do it, whether by your calculation from that definition, what Israel is doing is deliberately killing a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group.
Yeah, well, what I can say to you, again, because these definitions shift, I don't think we need to focus on the word, because I'm telling you what I believe. And my belief is that they are not being careful whatsoever. My belief is that there has been too much loss of Palestinian life.
But that's different to genocide, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but okay, that's fine. We don't need to. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're obsessing over this one word. It doesn't matter.
Well, because you tweeted about genocide.
You told me.
I'm only trying to clear up.
The tweet is about Brian Mast. So you're harping on this issue. There's a lot more topics that we should talk about. I'm being very clear in how I feel about this issue. The Israeli government is not being careful in how they're dealing with this. I agree with you that the amount of death has been completely unacceptable. When I tweeted that was back in November. So we're talking way more lives that have been lost, and that tweet was about Brian Mast. So
I get it. No, here's my reason. I never
imagined the amount of dead Palestinian children that I would see on my X feed since then.
It's horrific.
It's heartbreaking to me as a mother. It's horrific to me that the media seems almost complicit in the dehumanization of Palestinians, and I will not be on that side, because at the end of the day, the hit pieces, the name-calling, the anti-Semitism, the psychopathic language that seems to be coming out of people means nothing. And I want to make sure everybody knows this, right? At the end of the day, you are going to have to account to God.
All right, so to be clear, that portion that you just saw was the best part of the arguments Candace made. They talked about this for a much longer period, and she went on this weird tangent about, she made it about Christians. Less about Palestinians, more about Christians. Like, oh, Christians are being persecuted all over the world, and nobody says anything about the Christians being persecuted. And then there was, the long conversation about the Christ is King thing.
Right.
Where she said that, and she was like, this is totally innocuous. I was just expressing my faith. And, he's like, yeah, but you did that, and then you had a bunch of literal white supremacists and neo-Nazis come in saying Christ is king and spanning Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire with it, and they clearly meant it in an anti-Semitic way, and Nick Fuentes defended you. Does it make you uncomfortable that these are the people that were defending you? And she did the tap dance of like, bro, I got a lot of followers and stuff. I can't control what everybody says and what everybody believes and stuff, bro. I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Yeah. So, and Piers tried to be, well, he's got a lot of followers. Like, it's significant. She's like, well, how many followers? Tell me what platform,
Yeah,
clearly,
she was lawyerly.
Yeah, and that's clearly a tactic she uses whenever she gets in trouble. She does that a little bit with the genocide thing, too.
She doesn't say it's a genocide.
Right.
The entire time. She doesn't say it's a genocide. She does the, they're not being specific.
Right.
Right? And it's like, it's beyond that now. They want to do they're doing a genocide. They have fucking conventions where government officials go and talk about how they're going to resettle Gaza.
She's clearly, I don't know why she wants to dodge this, but like
because she's a right winger.
She wants to have it both ways of sort of like suggesting maybe it's a genocide. And she talks about how she asked people on her show, okay, well, how many dead Palestinians would it have to be? Like, give me a number that would make it classified as genocide without actually taking a position herself. And then she also has this weird tangent about like Native Americans. Well, they said that's a genocide, and I don't even like, just sort of like a distraction again.
So Piers says it's intentionality.
Right.
And she said, well, there wasn't intentionality for the Native American genocide. It was smallpox that killed them. So she's trying to say it's not really about intentionality.
But that's also not true. But anyway.
And also, there is intentionality for Israel, who is still left pretending there's no intentionality behind what Israel's doing right now.
It was just such an obvious dodge from her, where she wants to use clever ways of suggesting perhaps it's a genocide, but also saying like, oh, but who even really cares about that word? Obviously there are too many innocent people being killed. Doesn't actually want to take a position because there are so many on the right who just would really object to the actual label being put on it.
Yeah, I just think I don't know if I found anybody on the right who's willing to just say it's an ethnic cleansing and a genocide. Even ones who are good on the issue generally, still refuse to say it's an ethnic cleansing and a genocide.
Yeah, there is a weird, you use the word tap dance that goes on where it's like, well, what is this word even? Who even really cares about this word? And, to me, that just, words have meaning. There's a reason why we have words and why we apply them. And especially with this, I mean, this is a legal term defined in international law that, Piers reads what the definition is. And so obviously it matters whether or not that word applies so that people can understand what's actually happening in Gaza. That's why it matters. And I mean, in an ideal world, these things would have some teeth and some legal ramifications. We don't quite live in that world, although I would say the ICJ proceedings against Israel have been significant to Israel and have helped to foment that pariah status that is increasing reality for them. So she really tries to dance around this a bunch of ways.
So by the way, to me, a very eye-opening moment was when Piers starts asking her about the Kanye thing, about how she defended Kanye after he said, I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews.
Yeah.
And he basically says, like, is that anti-Semitic to say you're going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews?
Right.
And then she lies and says, no, he said some Jews. And they're like, no, he did not say some Jews. He said the Jews. And then she gives some long, tortured explanation about how his manager or his agent wanted to drug him and take his kids away from him. And it's like, I think that's because of his fucking schizophrenic, bipolar meltdown and not because he's some evil, nefarious person, part of a giant cabal. These people who are trying to get Kanye on meds are literally trying to help him the most out of anybody on the fucking earth. And it's spun as if they're nefarious and they're trying to control him in a negative way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the fact that she wasn't able to say, yeah, Kanye West he's crossed the line multiple times. He's been anti-Semitic. Remember when he went on Alex Jones and said, quote, I love Hitler? Did that not cross a line for you? Like, if you can't say, yeah, Kanye's too far gone, he's anti-Semitic, then look, I'm sorry, all of your other views on the topic of Israel and Palestine and Jews, you've painted yourself. Because now it's like, oh no, you're not doing this because you are against genocide in principle. You're doing this because it allows you to feel like you can spin it and point a finger at an evil cabal of Jews who control the world, who's also putting their boot on the neck of Christians, which again, she says Christians are the most persecuted people in the fucking world, right? So like, it's so hollow to me.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of people need to be very careful, myself included, because there are good criticisms and there are bad criticisms, right? And somebody could nominally look on your side, but they're not on your side. If you take a clip of Nick Fuentes out of context, talking about Palestinians and, Israel's killing all, it's like, oh, yeah, he's right. But if somebody shares that with no perspective or understanding of what this guy, what his role is, or what he actually believes.
Where that view came from.
Right. Then it's like, no, these aren't allies. There's also apparently a bunch of UFC fighters who are like Holocaust deniers who are saying the right things on Palestine. And it's like, sorry, not interested.
Yeah, or they have like the tribal view in the other direction where they're themselves Muslim and like, you know, would think that it was fine to slaughter Israeli civilians or whatever.
Yeah, like October 7th apology or whatever the hell.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. No, and the other piece, so there were a couple times with the Kanye piece, you know, she really kind of got caught there because it wasn't just that she said that wasn't anti-Semitic, but she also said any honest person
would say it's not anti-Semitic.
Would say it's not anti-Semitic. But then her defense was like, oh, well, I said that because I had understanding that the public didn't have. Well, it can't be both.
Right, yeah, it's true.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And the truth with Candace, probably with Kanye, is they have a personal relationship. She finds it beneficial to her.
Obviously.
She likes him. Whatever. Like, I think it would be much more acceptable if she just was upfront about like, listen, I know this guy and I don't think he's anti-Semitic.
I'm biased. He's my friend.
I'm biased. He's my friend. Like that's human. You know, people could understand that even if they didn't totally excuse it. So with that, and then also on the genocide piece, you know, she had tweeted out something about like basically, you know, genocide is wrong. I can't believe we have to say that. Everyone assumed she's talking about the genocide that's going on in Gaza. But she also goes through this long explanation. No, I was talking about Brian Mast specifically, and I wasn't actually talking about Gaza again to try to wriggle out.
Yeah, she's evasive for no reason.
Right, to try to have it both ways of like, well, I'm kind of suggesting this is a genocide, but I don't actually want to say that word because there was blowback to that tweet, and it was like, you know, a problem for me with some portion of my audience, so I'm just going to back away from that was what it appeared to me.
What's wrong with people? If you're asked that question, hey, was this thing you tweeted about genocide, is that about what's happening in Gaza? The correct answer is yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything.
Like,
yeah, that's what it was about.
Like what she was doing there, you know, and what people would think. And then after she tested it and there was some kind of blowback she didn't like, now she's running away from it.
Yeah, but where does it stem from to be like, no, I wasn't talking about that. It was a very specific comment from Brian Mast about purposefully killing civilians and saying they're not civilians. It's like the people who are willing to criticize that are usually also willing to take the next step and say, based on all the evidence, it looks like there's a genocide going on here.
Yeah.
And she won't do it. She won't do it. And by the way, there was a portion on the Daily Wire, which was interesting, where, you know, apparently Andrew Klavan and Ben Shapiro have given their take on it. Andrew Klavan more than Ben Shapiro. He's the Daily Wire guy. And Piers Morgan asked Candace, and Candace, like, refuses to comment, hard refuses. And it's like, why is that? Why is she hard refusing? Because the speculation is she has an NDA. And so she's abiding by that. I think Ben Shapiro tried to abide by that largely because when he was on Piers Morgan, it was the same sort of thing, brick wall, when it came to that sort of stuff. But Klavan's been going around talking about Candace relatively freely. And so she points out, like, there's a double standard there. I'm not allowed to say shit, but they're allowed to talk, you know? And she also, you know, she does the thing about, oh, you need to believe in free speech. And that's true. I wish that they believed in free speech at all these different media corporations, but let's also face the facts. If she had her own platform and somebody came on and started shitting on Christians, would she be rah free speech, or would she be like, get the fuck off my platform?
Yeah.
Right? So again, for me, I find that it's both a true statement but also kind of hollow depending on the context, right?
Well, the thing is that all the like Kanye defense, she made those comments previously about like what Hitler was doing was fine until he wanted to go global. Remember that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
All of that was fine.
He just wanted to make Germany great again.
That's right. And it was when he took his ambitions globally.
It's that he's a globalist. That was the problem.
That was the issue.
Yeah.
But you know, she'd said all of that is like actually anti-Semitic, and there was no problem with the Daily Wire. And that's why I made it clear that like, oh, you actually are fine with sort of brazen anti-Semitism as long as it doesn't go after Zionism, as long as it's not directly critical of the Israeli state. That's where the line is. And so...
Yeah, you're saying when she criticized Israel proper,
when she was fired. That's when it was a problem.
She could say whatever she wanted about
the
Jews.
Kanye stuff was fine, you know, even though you're defending a man who literally said Hitler, I love Hitler, you know, and then the DEFCON 3 on the Jew defending that was all fine. The Hitler, that was fine. It's when she was critical of Israel's conduct that it was an issue.
And by the way, final point, Piers Morgan is still the most confused man in America.
Yeah.
Because one clip will come out and he's defending Palestinians, another clip will come out.
She calls him out on that.
She does.
She's right on that one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's getting really tired. It's so stale. It's like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Because they'll do the, you know, he like correctly points out that you guys just bombed a refugee camp on purpose and killed hundreds of civilians. And then in the next breath, he's like, but it's not a genocide.
Right. Yeah.
Come on, bro. But I think it stems from his tabloid background, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
he just likes to stir the pot.
I'm going to say the thing. I said the thing. People are like, oh, you said the thing, you know?
Always craving attention.
You're right.
And that's how he conducts his show, too. It's a circus.
Yeah.